Hello Gloomhands! There are lots of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom tips and tricks videos all over YouTube. I've watched most of them and I put most of the good tips and tricks all together in this one video. Some of these tips I've learned in my experience, but most of them are from channels that are linked in the description. I'm sure some of them might be common knowledge and maybe you'll know most of them, but I hope you give it a chance and hopefully you'll learn at least one new thing in this video. Also, I don't know what counts as a spoiler anymore, so let's just say that there are spoilers. At least know I won't show any story spoilers, and if you're starting to see something you don't want to see, you can leave. But I do hope you come back. Lastly, check the timestamps to see the categories of how this video is organized, starting with great materials, fused or used. Number 1. Ores. Opal, topaz, sapphire, and rubies give items elemental properties. Opals can be used to shoot water. Water wets things, and wet things conduct electricity, creating orbs to hit bigger range of enemies. Use water to create platforms in lava. This platform can be used to blow enemies away. Topaz can be used to shock enemies. When enemies get shocked, they'll drop their weapons. Frozen enemies also create electric orbs. You can freeze enemies with sapphires by fusing them to a weapon or shield. You can fuse these to a shield or weapon for heat resistance in the Gerudo Desert. Hitting a frozen enemy will do 3 times the damage. You can use this ice to create platforms in water or lava. These platforms can also be fused to another ice attack weapon, which can allow you to do more ice attack, or you can create platforms forever. These ice weapons won't last long in the heat though. And this ice platform can freeze enemies and blow them away. Rubies can be used to shoot fire, which can burn enemies, which slowly reduce their HP while they're on fire. This is good to use on grass to burn enemies. If you fuse a ruby to a weapon or shield, it will protect Link from unbearable cold for 1 level. All these ores can be thrown or shot from an arrow and have the same effect, just be careful not to be too close to them when they take effect. There are some alternatives to these items like dragon parts, fire, ice, shock, and splash fruit. And you can drop these from the air. Lizalfo's tails are also alternatives, but these also act like a whip, which is cool. Or elemental key swings, and these key swings will shoot very far. Or elemental eyeballs, which make an arrow go straight to an enemy and also hit them with that element. Yes, the wings allow arrows to shoot straight, but so do rockets. Also, if the item is on the shield, its effect will also happen when an enemy hits the shield. If you fuse a star fragment to a weapon, it'll shoot balls of light, and these balls of light don't do anything. You're welcome. Muddle buds will confuse an enemy and have them attack one another. It probably would be best to Muddle Bud one of the strongest enemies in the group. Puffshrooms can create a cloud of smoke, not allowing enemies to see. This way you can easily run behind them and sneak strike. Sneak strikes do 8 times the damage. Dazzle fruits can also blind an enemy but for a short period of time, and they will also drop their weapons. Cursor bee honey will release a swarm of bees to an enemy, or you if you're closer. You can use a multi-shot bow and it will release even more bees. If you use fuse on a mirror on a shield, you can use it to blind an enemy. I'm assuming you learned this early, but fusing a Zonai device will allow Link to use its effect. Flame emitter for fire, frost emitter for ice, shock emitter for shock, and beam for beam. And rockets for boom. And of course, the hydrant for water. I just said you can fuse these, but it seems to be best to use them by itself. Just hit them to start them and move them around using Ultrahand. Spring shield and weapon can be used to knock enemies far away. So can mushrooms. No torch? Fuse a wood to a weapon and burn it. You can shield surf with a cart or minecart shield. This will help you on rough terrain and even use them on rails. Don't have a cart? You can freeze meat or fish and shield surf for lots of friction. Oh yeah, by the way, you can shield surf on rails. You can also use shield surf to do somewhat of a double jump, which helps you reach high or far places. Also, the wing fused shield can be used to go even farther and higher. You can even go into bullet time if you time it properly. You've got a rocket on your shield, just pull out your rocket shield to get height to reach places or to go into bullet time. Octo balloons work also, it just takes longer, and not so high. You can shield surf on a bomb to get height, whether it be a bomb flower, bomb barrel, or a time bomb. Shoot a hoverstone while you're in the air and you can use it to keep some height. If you don't have a rock to fuse to break some breakable rocks, there are a few Zonai devices you can fuse. This list includes portable pots, stakes, hoverstones, homing carts, and well, cannons. Sorta. I don't know if they really count. There are some materials that help too. Mini boss horns, Lynel hooves, and some low-level monster horns like Moblin horns and Horriblin horns. Also enemies like. I just wanted to say like. I've seen a few posts asking what to do with flux cores when they drop it. You can fuse them to a weapon for more attack. The same goes when it comes to taluses when they give you their heart. If you didn't know, 8-fold long blades shoot slash projectiles when they're swung, and if you charge it, the projectile will be longer. But if you fuse a dragon horn or a Gleeok horn to it, the slash will have the elemental property. This also works with metal buds. You don't see the slash change, but it still confuses enemies. Enemies eat food. Throw food to distract them, and then you can attack them. Some enemies like bokoblins and moblins can't swim. Blow them or pushing them into water will cause them to drown. Construct's eyes will glow right before they attack. This can help you indicate the timing to do a parry or flurry rush. Use a dazzle fruit to defeat all stall monsters at once. Use ice to defeat multiple little froxes at once. You can ascend the platforms from these battle taluses. Frankly, you can ascend through any talus. Use recall to send their arms back at them when they throw them at you. Don't want to knock off the bokoblins? Muddlebud the talus and they'll do it for you. Usually, you need to shoot Hinoxes in their eyes to stun them, but dazzle fruits work just as well. For flux constructs, they can't hurt you if you remove their hands and their back block of their feet. But also, you can simply remove the eye. If you want the Flux's chests, you don't have to fight them for it. Lynels will roar so loud they will break your Zonai devices if you try to use them. However, treasure chests don't break, so if you fuse a few treasure chests together for an auto build, and if you bring it to the Lynels, they'll roar non-stop to try to break it, and then you can do whatever you want to them. Use a multi-shot bow with an eyeball to hit multiple Gleeok eyes at once. These suck the rocks on Death Mountain can suck your weapons. When they spit them back out, they will repair the weapon and give it a random bonus. Best to save before dropping your weapon, then keep reloading if you don't get the modifier that you want. Just note that you'll get a white one first, and then a white one can turn into a yellow one. Some weapons have bonuses highlighted in blue. Don't forget to read them in the inventory and take advantage of them. Some will help you. Don't forget that you can drop materials while in the air. I've already given some specific fuse tips, but if you get a multi-shot bow, remember that it doesn't just multiply the arrows, but the fuse materials too. So get creative, try some good materials like rubies or something. You know how if you ride a horse or a machine, you can jump off pretty high? Even if you use the steering stick just alone, you can still do this. So use this to go into bullet time from the ground. If you make something and it falls, don't forget that you can recall it. If you want to have something go far, you can shoot an arrow with an item like wood, fuse that item to the wood, then recall the wood. Just note that the item it's fused to might be too heavy for the wood. You can do this with Korok backpacks, with rocks for Koroks, or with shrine puzzles. To get your Zonai wing started, you can move it off the ledge, bring it back, then recall it to get it off the ledge. If your machine went the wrong way, recall it to go back just a little, then you can fix where you want it to go. You can also use this to get to some places. Get a platform or something that you can climb, move it to where you want it to go, move it back, then get on it and recall it. Want to use this to get higher? Make something with platforms and ascend through them. Or make the longest thing you can possibly think of, make it vertical, ultrahand it up, then recall it. Then you can ascend through the whole thing. If you want to go even higher, attach the springs to this, then activate it when you're on top. Do you want to move horizontally? Make a long bridge, move the end as far as possible, turn it around, then get to the end and recall it. You can gain more battery while you're in the air. Recall can help you stop for a bit, then gain some battery. Then stop the recall and activate your machine again. Hold a wing or flat surface above wood for a few seconds, then recall it. You can use this to light a fire if you want to sit. It says this in the bottom if you hold R, but most people don't see that you can press ZL to flatten the object that you're holding with Ultrahand. This will help you adjust the directions easier. Whichever is easier, but instead of wiggling your right analog stick, you can also shake your controller to separate parts if you want. If you're having trouble making something upright, especially with wheels, use a stake under the platform to elevate it and keep it flat. Stakes can also be used to help make high platforms that you can ascend through. You can't reach something? Use Ultrahand to get it. You can auto-build any material and use its effects. It just has to be glued to something. You can do this with bomb flowers, metal buds, jellies, and more. You can even just fuse them to one another if you need to. Also, do this for some rare or some random parts like from shrines, again, as long as they're glued together with something else. If you want to collect a whole bunch of an item from the same place, you can make an auto build of those items. For example, a whole bunch of apples and a few golden apples, and you can take them off trees and bunch them together using the auto build. But honestly, ice rods are probably better for taking apples down. You can spin anything with Ultrahand a whole bunch of times, then recall it and it'll spin by itself. Spinning it with Ultrahand won't hurt an enemy, but if it's being recalled, it needs to be fused with something and it can hurt the enemy. Get creative, build a spinning thing with some weapons attached to it and set traps for enemies. Or you could use a Zonai whale to make things spin on its own. You can also attach some weapons, logs, emitters, and more. If you put a platform in the middle, you can stand on it and shoot arrows from the top of the platform. You can use an open spring as suspension for car builds so they in theory go over rough terrain better. You can use cages with some emitters inside and use these as traps for some enemies. You can also use a cage on an enemy and just shock the cage. You can also use the cage to protect yourself, but I don't know what you're going to do with this. If you create a closed cage with the same idea but with cuckoos, you can do this to get infinite eggs without being attacked. You can save Korok backpack in your auto build. If you plan on using the same auto build, this could save you some time to get the Korok attached to it. Platform and rocket on an auto build is a pretty good build. And stacking them on one another without gluing will allow you to activate them one at a time, and you can use a rocket shield to go even higher at the end. Platform and 45-degree rocket is also good to reach some high places. One of the best auto builds to favorite most people talk about is a hover bike. There's multiple ways to do it and can be difficult to make it perfect, but you can try playing around with it and see which is best for you. One way is to make a steering stick 45 degrees and attach the front to a fan that's laying down. Then attach another fan to the back. And this only costs 9 Zonai if you don't have the parts. You can also do this on the sides of the control stick to get more vertical travel. You can use flame emitters for Zonai balloons, but it uses lots of battery. So instead of the flame emitter, you can use a torch or burnt wood. Some items and machines will despawn if you get a little too far from them or if they travel too far. However, a dragon part won't despawn unless you're 2,000 meters from it. So guess what? If you glue a dragon part to your machine, it won't despawn. You can leave, come back, and pick up the dragon part, just don't fast travel away. If you cook something while on a machine, it will replenish your battery. Wings only despawn after a certain time if they're flying forward. So if you want a wing to last as long as possible, try using it backwards. It won't despawn, but the aerodynamics are kind of weird. You can play around with this idea. I use a stabilizer, but the machine won't go up, but it does turn. If you auto build these water globules by attaching it to something, they will break right away. But why is this a good thing? If you want to have multiple Zonai machines, you have to build them individually. But if you build one, attach it to a globule, and build another also attached to the globule, when you auto build it, they both will be built and they'll be separated. You can easily help Addison if you have the resources. Get a hoverstone, activate it, and hover it under the sign. Stakes also work great, but you choose which is best for you. I also mentioned that using recall for fire, but again, you could also use a hoverstone too. You can only use Amiibo once a day, but there's a way around this. After you use your Amiibo, save and close the game. Change the date to a different day, and then you could use the Amiibo again after you reload your game. If you want to use this almost unlimitedly, change the date to January 1st, year 2000, then go up from there. This makes sure that you don't repeat any days that you've used the Amiibo. Also, plural Amiibo is pronounced Amiibo. That tip is free. I won't even count it on my list. When you beat the Wind Temple, you'll get Toolin. Toolin will give Link a gust of horizontal wind that will travel forward faster and farther. If you continue to release and take out your paraglider, you'll go even farther. This is called Toolin pumping. Wooden treasure chests can be broken with weapons. This will save you a second or two, but it will use durability. Use Ultrahand to lift boxes high and drop them on top of one another, or just use the ground. This will save you some weapon durability, but not time. Don't forget that you can drop weapons, bows and shields, and items from the quick menu by simply pressing X. It's simple, but I know you forgot. You should know that you can sort your inventory by pressing Y. This works on the main inventory menu and the quick menu. But if you want to move an item to the front of the most used list, simply press ZL to take out the bow, then fuse the item that you want fused. Then just keep pressing up on the D-pad until you see the item go in front of the list as far as you want it to. Even if you have no stamina while you're falling in the air, you can use a paraglider once more. This will save you from dying before you hit the ground. If you see a flock of birds, there usually means there's something there. This could be something like a shrine, chasm, or a mini-boss. If you want the day to pass while it's raining, place a fire at the entrance of a shrine. You can burn a pine cone, spicy pepper, sunshrooms to create an updraft, but the pine cone needs to be thrown on a fire for it to work best. You can also hit a Zonai fan for an updraft. If you view a recipe and your materials, you can press A to hold all the materials needed for that recipe as long as you have those materials. Cooking at 11:30 during a blood moon will automatically give the dish a bonus. Adding a golden apple to a dish would automatically give the dish a bonus too. You can skip blood moons by going into shrines, check the map for the time, and when you leave, it'll be gone. But it will appear on the next night, unless you skip it again. So you can prevent monsters from respawning, or you can also wait to do more dish bonuses. If it's raining and you can't cook, the Zonai cooking pot allows you to cook in the rain. You can shield surf over gloom. With that said, you can ride a Zonai machine over gloom. But you can also ride a stall horse over gloom if you find them in the depths. Of course, we know we can use the fallen rocks on the surface to go up to the sky, but you can attach a wing to it, and when you're at its peak, Ultrahand it off, and now you're on a wing if you want to go travel somewhere far. You can get on a wing while it's still in the air, which is slightly tricky. While paragliding, have Link fall straight down. Go into the inventory and take out a wing and hold up. You'll need to press B twice next. First to get out of the inventory, then second to release the paraglider and land on the wing. Practice the timing and eventually you'll get it. It's not too difficult. Do you use the scope to mark things? If you use the colored ones, the symbol will glow depending if you mark something in the sky, surface, or the depths. Speaking of, you can use the scope while you're in the air. Link will fall slowly when this happens, so take your time marking things if you see anything. If you see a bloopy, shoot them for some rupees. And after, they'll run away into a cave. This will help you find some caves. When you discover a cave, the cave icon will show. And when you collect the bubble gem from that cave, there will be a check mark next to the cave's icon. When you see a cherry blossom tree, drop a fruit and it'll show you where all the caves are. It won't stay lit for that long. If you have your purple pad upgraded, you can also track some blue peas if you want to find some caves. If you can't find some bubble frogs in caves, you can also track them in your sensor too. But I think the best thing to track would be treasure chests, just saying. The depths are the complete opposite of the surface. So when you see a mountain on the surface, know that it's possibly a canyon or a valley in the depths. And if there's water on the surface, then it's a wall in the depths. This also applies for light roots and shrines on the surface. If you find a shrine in the surface, there's a light root that's on the same place in the depths. And the same thing on the opposite. This will help you find some light roots and shrines by comparing both maps. If you get gloomed hearts in the depths, they won't go away while you're in the depths unless you eat a specific dish or go to the surface to get rid of them. Or you can use the light root. It took me a while to realize why they showed my hearts every time I opened a light root. When you go to a stable for the first time, if you have horses from your Breath of the Wild save file, they will transfer your Tears of the Kingdom file if they're on the same profile. If you want to land somewhere and you don't have the paraglider yet, have Link climb onto a log or something, then when that item falls, it won't damage Link. Just like in Breath of the Wild, being in the shadow will reduce heat in the Gerudo Desert. If you Ultrahand something big like a wing, you'll have a constant shadow. You can also build something with shade that will help you in the hot sun. You can also wet yourself and keep you cool for a few seconds in the Gerudo Desert. This also works on Death Mountain. If you want more battery for a machine you're using, you can use Zonai charges from the material menu to regain some battery. You can use any Zonai part for the dispensers, even Zonai horns. But if you use Zonai charges, you will get more parts depending on how many charges you put. This chart will show you how many parts you get depending on the combination of charges from regular and large Zonai charges. If you don't want to do some of these shrines the Nintended way, use a bomb flower on the shrines to activate these large buttons. To activate these light button things, they hint that you need a mirror and sunlight, but you can go into bullet time and use a multi-shot dazzle fruit instead. Link will not be one-hit killed if he's attacked with a strong attack and he has full health. It only will drop his health to a quarter heart. If he has less than full health, he can be one-hit killed. There are exceptions. Gleeoks are one of those exceptions. If you're looking for a rock in a rock Korok puzzle, it's usually in the direction of where the missing rock is. You can also use Ultrahand to help you find it. But actually, you can use a weapon that's fused with a rock for these puzzles. It's a little tricky, but you can ascend through something that you're carrying. This way you can go into bullet time easily. These figures give pristine weapons based on the region that they're in. For example, Zora weapons under Zora area, Rito weapons under the Rito area, and Gerudo weapons under the Gerudo area. If you look at a weapon that it's holding, it will never change until you take it. So if it's something that you don't want, take it and maybe it'll change the next time you go back. However, it won't be another different weapon unless you've discovered the decayed version and broken it. Also, there is a chance for a modifier. Just save before getting it and reload if it's the one that you don't want. This was one of my first curiosities in the game. No, you won't die if you land on a lily pad. Yes, there are more tips and tricks, but I keep learning new things while I'm making this video and I had to cut myself off or I'd never finish making it. Which ones are your favorite, and share some of yours in the comments. There is this video with lots of tips and tricks for Breath of the Wild, but they still apply for Tears of the Kingdom, so I hope you check it out. Like the video if you like, consider subscribing for more, and I appreciate you watching until the end. You're the best. See you next time!